morning, everyone. Welcome on TechDays. Again, probably, if you've been here for 2 days already, so welcome again. This talk is going to be about NuGet. Who of you have been using NuGet before? Who has heard of NuGet? Okay, a lot of people. Who hasn't heard of NuGet? Just to make sure, I include a small demo on how you can use it. Okay, a few. The idea of this talk is not to give you an overview of what NuGet is, but for those of you who don't know it, I will give a quick introduction to what it is. The idea is more to give you an overview of how you can use NuGet in your enterprise scenarios, how you can use NuGet on your build server, how you can use NuGet to manage your dependencies in your own frameworks, in your own applications that you are building in your company. So that's why we are going to organize our chickens. I am Maarten Balliauw. I come from Belgium. Apparently one of the few foreign speakers here. I work for a company named Real Dolman. What we typically do is all sorts of consulting in Java, .NET, mainframe, hardware stuff, software stuff, you name it, and we do it. My focus is more on ASP.NET Web, ASP.NET MVC, PHP, Windows Azure, basically everything related to web technologies. I'm also an MVP, Windows Azure, and I blog about all these topics on my blog over there. You can find me on Twitter as well. Some tweets about my coffee abuse, some tweets about important stuff going on in the ASP.NET or Windows Azure ecosystem, so maybe interesting, maybe not interesting. What is interesting after this talk, if you think, okay, NuGet is something I want to use, I've co-authored a book on NuGet called Pro NuGet, which is on the market since 2 days, so it's really fresh off the presses. Feel free to buy it and to sponsor me. The agenda for today, well, first of all, I'm going to cover NuGet quickly, why you want to use NuGet, how you can use NuGet, and then we're going to dive into some scenarios, how you can host your own repository, how you can do continuous package integration, how you can actually use NuGet on your build server and in your builds. I'm also going to cover about how you can abuse NuGet. For those of you who know NuGet already, NuGet is a package management system. But NuGet can also be abused to just distribute assemblies, to distribute codes, to distribute files using a standard protocol, namely the NuGet protocol. So I'm going to quickly dive into that one and see what you can do with that. And I'm going to end with a NuGet inception demo, actually something where I have a NuGet package that I push to my build server, which gets built, which is deployed on my server and downloads stuff from NuGet again. So the entire circle. So first of all, NuGet. For those of you who haven't heard of it, NuGet is a solution from Microsoft for something called Dependency Hell. If you go to Wikipedia, you'll probably see this definition. Dependency Hell is frustration. Who's been frustrated by dependencies? Okay, a lot of you. The others are probably management or something. Typically, dependencies are something you struggle with, something you get frustrated from, unless you do it right using Maven or one package management system or something like NuGet. The idea of dependency hell is you have dependencies that depend on other packages, and those other packages also depend on other packages, and somewhere in that chain, there's a dependency on 2 different versions of one specific assembly, and that's where you get in trouble. That's where you get dependency hell. Solutions to that may be some assembly redirects. Solutions may be downloading the source, and it's an open source tool, compiling it yourself in the correct version that's good for the 2 packages depending on that assembly, but still, it's frustrating. Also, if you have to download the source code for a package and include it in your project, you're actually doing more than just having a dependency. You're actually maintaining that source code in your source control system. Which means if there's an update to that source code and you want to use that update, you have to, again, apply that all to your version control system. Make sure all that new source code of the external dependencies in your version control system. A lot of work, and probably a lot of frustration, and a lot of inefficiencies. You'll probably spend a lot of time working around all this stuff. Reasons for dependency hell? Well, there's a few. A lot of you, me too, are reinventing the wheel. A lot of project managers are reinventing the wheel. By which I mean, who's written their own ORM members? Okay, one. Why? just to try it out. Okay, that's a good reason. On a lot of projects, I see a lot of people writing their own ORM mappers, for example, while there are numerous ORM mappers out there. Why would you write your own? Okay, if you have a certain performance that you want to live up to, you can write your own, but there's a lot of ORM mappers available, so why don't you reuse that code? Also, if you write your own framework in your company, who's doing that? Okay, are you using the assemblies of the framework in other projects? Okay. What I typically see in our customers is some customers are actually just copying the source code from that framework in every new project they start, which means you don't have one version of that internal framework, you have thousands of versions of that framework, which is, again, dependency hell. So what happened to reuse? Something all people talk about, you should be able to reuse all your code and all your assemblies. Why don't you do it? NuGet is something that you can use to stimulate reuse of your components. Also, there's some marketing-driven versioning. Who has heard about, what was it again, the SQL Server Management Studio Express R2 November release? What kind of a version number is that? One component might depend on the November release, the next one might depend on the December release, and ta-da, dependency hell. Why is that? Well, Microsoft typically tries to push out versions, and people think, okay, the version is okay from version 2 or version 3. So that's why they give these fancy names to their products, just to disguise the actual version number. But what happened to versioning? If you don't use versioning correctly, you will probably get into dependency hell as well. Now, NuGet is a solution to that, or tries to be a solution to that. Again, NuGet is just a tool that you can use to overcome dependency hell, but if you use it in the wrong fashion, you will actually experience dependency hell as well. So you have to use it in the correct way. NuGet is an extension to Visual Studio. It's also a command line tool, and it's also a PowerShell host. So NuGet is actually 3 different applications in one package. Basically what NuGet does is a simple command line tool which can find packages, open source libraries, commercial libraries, whatever, which can install those packages, which can uninstall those packages, and which can update those packages. Now, Microsoft has made a Visual Studio extension to that thing, so you can use it from within Visual Studio, and also a PowerShell host. So you can actually write PowerShell code within Visual Studio to install and uninstall packages. But the main concept is quite simple. It's just use and reuse packages and produce packages and find packages, of course. So I'm going to give you a quick demo of how you can use NuGet. Normally, if you have MVC3 installed or Visual Studio 11, you will have NuGet automatically in Visual Studio. If not, go to nuget.org and click the giant install button over there. NuGet.org is actually the official NuGet gallery. NuGet uses this concept of galleries to find and install packages. And this is the default one that is installed with NuGet. So if you want to install, for example, SPNet Web API, some new stuff, you can find it on the NuGet gallery and you can install it from Visual Studio. If my internet connection would work. That's strange. Okay, I hope my demos will work. Of course, through the web is not the ideal manner to find packages and to install packages, so I'm going to use Visual Studio for that this time. So what I'm going to do is create a new project, and there I'm going to install one NuGet package. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. Just for sake of simplicity, I'm going to create a new class library. So just a simple empty project, or empty with class 1 installed. And I'm going to install a NuGet package in there. Now, I do hope I have a network connection again. I'm going to add a package from NuGet. And I'm going to search for a package. So I can go online and search, for example, for jQuery. I want to install jQuery in my application. Should this have an internet connection normally? Oh. Normally I would find jQuery in here and I would be able to install jQuery. Now unfortunately the internet seems broken. Luckily I have a NuGet package cache installed as well, which should contain jQuery. No. Okay, in that case I'm going to use the PowerShell console, which is an alternative to this. And once it's loaded, I'm going to quickly change to the NuGet package cache. And I'm going to install a package named Pro NuGet, which is the package for a book, which cannot be found apparently. There go all my demos. Going to try again from the official package source. Awesome. Okay, so no NuGet demo. I'm going to quickly check if I have some packages in my cache, just to make sure I can show you something. It's in there. I have no packages in there. Great. I think I have some packages somewhere on my system. Who of you has been using MEF-contrib? It's an extension to the Managed Extensibility Framework. I'm going to quickly create a new build of that, and it should contain some packages. There we go. So I have at least something to demo with. Okay, just going to wait for this build. This was normally for a later demo, but I told you that NuGet uses the official NuGet package source from nuget.org, which is this one, the top one. And that's the default that will be included with your Visual Studio. Now what you can do is add different package sources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this build to finish. And I'm going to add it in here. So I'm going to add a MEF-contrib feed. I'm going to add that package source. As you can see, the package source can be an HTTP URL, but it also can be just a folder that you will use as a source for all the packages you will be using. So I'm going to click OK, add this package source. If everything goes right, my build failed. Serious trouble here. Okay, I'm going to copy this one, so I have one package. Cool. So, initial demo, install package, MEF-contrib. Of course, from my MEF-contrib feed. And there you go, it will install this assembly into my project. Wow. Typically, if I had an internet connection, this demo would have been more fluent and much easier. Now the idea is, the install package, what it will do is download a package from NuGet. It will inspect if this package has dependencies on other packages. So for example, if you install jQuery UI, jQuery UI will have a dependency on jQuery. And if you install jQuery UI, NuGet will automatically include jQuery as well. If you install a Windows Azure storage helper, for example, it will install 5 or 6 dependencies in one go. So you just have to install one and it will include everything. Remember the last time you installed an Hibernate in a project? What you would typically do is go to the internet, find the right version of Hibernate. It has some dependencies that you should search for on other websites and stuff like that. It takes a while to install. While with NuGet, you just say install package Hibernate, and it will fetch all these dependencies for you. So it's much easier to produce something using NuGet. So that's the basic idea of NuGet. Now, of course, I've been consuming a package. Just installed MEF-contrib into my solution. Now what if my class library contains this wonderful empty class? If I want to distribute this on NuGet, for example, or I want to distribute it across my team for future reuse in future projects, how would I go about that? Well, there's a simple solution to that. You can create your own NuGet packages. The easiest way to do that is install the NuGet Package Explorer, which is like a tiny Visual Studio just to create NuGet packages. You can also find this one on nuget.org. I can create a new package in there, edit the metadata, and I have to give my package at least 3 properties: an ID, the version, and an author. The ID will be the unique identifier for your package. So this one has to be unique for the entire feed. So if you want to upload this to NuGet.org, for example, you will not be able to use jQuery, because jQuery already belongs to someone else. But you can call it my package or TechDays 2012 Finland or something like that. You also have to give it a version number, and that's an important one. The version number is used to determine all the dependencies, which means my solution or my NuGet package can have a dependency on version 1.2.3 of another package. I have to make sure all those version numbers are correct. So NuGet can actually find out which packages to download and which packages to install. I can add an icon, I can add a project URL, a description, I can require people to accept a license, for example, add dependencies on other NuGet packages. And I can also add dependencies on framework assemblies. So typically, if you require ASP.NET MVC, for example, you can add system.web.mvc as a framework dependency. And what will happen is, if you install this NuGet package in your project, NuGet will also automatically add a project reference to ASP.NET MVC. So it's very convenient to create your packages. What you can then do is add some file contents. So you can add a folder in there. I want to call it tests. You can add a content folder in there. You can add a light folder in there, a tools folder, stuff like that. Now, it's unfortunate that my internet is broken, because otherwise I would have been able to demo all this stuff. The idea is a package can contain different sets of artifacts. One of those artifacts can be content. What will happen is, if NuGet installs this package, it will just copy all the files that are sitting in the content folder of my NuGet package into my project. So it will just copy all those files in. If I have to modify something in web.config, for example, I can also add a modified version of web.config in here, and it will automatically merge those changes into your config file. So if you, by just installing a new package in your project, the package will just update web.config and make sure your project uses those updated settings. The light folder is an important one. This one will contain all the assemblies required for the package you are installing. Now, there's an interesting one. You probably have heard of JSON.NET, for example. The JSON.NET package uses this light folder pretty intensively. What you can do in a NuGet package is, in this light folder, you can add specific assemblies for specific project types. So, for example, if I want to have a version of my class library for .NET 2.0, I can add a .NET 2.0 version. I can also add a Silverlight version, Silverlight 5 for example. And what NuGet will do is just copy the right assemblies into your project and reference those. So if you create a Silverlight 5 project, it will look into the Silverlight 5 folder first to copy those assemblies in your project. So that's very interesting. Another interesting one is a tools folder. I've shown you there's a PowerShell command line in Visual Studio by installing NuGet. This tools folder can contain PowerShell commands. And what you can do, for example, is make sure that if you, for some reason, want to script something, add a menu item to Visual Studio, or make sure there's an additional command available, stuff like that, you can just add a PowerShell script in there, and NuGet will just register that in Visual Studio and make sure Visual Studio gets extended with that. So that's the visual way of creating a package, and of course I can now add existing files and make sure all those files are in this package, publish it to NuGet, and make sure I can consume it from Visual Studio. Another manner to do it is using the command line. So I can go to my class library folder, and what I can do in there is just say NuGet spec. And NuGet, I told you it was a command line tool as well. By calling NuGet spec, it will create a new file for me in my project. So if I open this, you will see that I now have a class library 1.nuspec file in there, which is just an XML file containing all those variables you saw previously in this NuGet Package Explorer as well. Now the interesting part here is I can edit this, so I can add a description, for example, and I can say TechDays Finland. nice description. What you also see is those $ID, those are replacement tokens. What will happen is if NuGet compiles this package, creates this package from your project, it will replace those tokens with data it finds in your assembly. So what it will do is, after compilation, it will go look into your assembly info, and it will use your assembly title as the ID. It will use your assembly version as the version. So I'm going to make that version 2, I'm going to make this version 2, and compile my project. Next command I can do is simply NuGet pack. And what this one will do is copy all my compiled assemblies into a NuGet package, use this package manifest, this XML I just showed you, and create a package for me. So if I now go to this folder, where is it? You will see that there's a NuGet package. I told you it would look at my assembly version for the versioning, so it has copied that into my package as well. And you will see it's just a regular NuGet package like the one we tried creating directly in here. So you will see the ID is in there, the title is in there, the version is in there, my description that I modified is in there, and I have a lib folder containing assemblies for .NET 4.0, containing my class library 1.0. I can upload this to NuGet, and everyone else in the world can download my class library 1 package and install it in their project. Now what's interesting is I installed mefcontrib in my solution as well. What NuGet will also do is look at the dependencies I have in my project, and it will also add that to my NuGet package. So since I installed mefcontrib, it will also include mefcontrib in here, and make sure that if I install class library 1 from NuGet, it also installs mefcontrib. And if mefcontrib has a dependency on another package, it will also include that one, and so on and so on. So that's pretty interesting. I can just install this class library and all dependencies will be satisfied immediately. Now, I'm going to copy this one to my own package source as well, so I can install it later in my Visual Studio project. Okay. I'm going to create a new project, another class library, and I'm going to use this one in the next thing. Now, important stuff to do when you create a NuGet package is think about versioning. Dependency hell, one of the reasons for dependency hell is bad versioning, which means if you don't use good versioning in NuGet, you will also end up in dependency hell again. So make sure you use something similar to semantic version. Work with a major, minor, and a patch version. Your major version, always increase it if you have breaking changes. If you add new classes, change interfaces, stuff like that, upgrade the major version of your NuGet package. Not of your assembly, do whatever you want with that, but your NuGet package should be upgraded to version up. If it contains backwards compatible changes, but you add new features, upgrade the minor version. Also important, NuGet will also always install the latest version of a package within the same major version. Which means if you have breaking changes, if someone uploads a package with breaking changes to NuGet, updates the major version number, you will never install that new version into your solution unless you specify that NuGet should do this. Reason for that is, if you install the package, it will not break your solution, it will not break your build. Minor version, same thing. NuGet will look at the minor version. If it's updated, it will install it, but you can optionally also cap that. So you can say, I want to stay within this major minor version. And then of course you also have the patch number, and you can use a patch number just whenever you post a small update or a typo or a change in the package that does not break anything on your consumer side. So think about version. Okay, actually showed this one already a little bit. You can also host your own repositories. NuGet.org is a public feed. Which means if I have a framework that does something interesting and that only my company is allowed to use, if I upload that one to NuGet.org, anyone can use it. So probably, or for privacy reasons or for intellectual property reasons, you probably don't always want to publish all your packages to NuGet.org. Maybe you want to use NuGet, but not the official feed that's sitting on NuGet.org. Also, something why you may want to host your own repository is if your internet is broken, something like I have. It would be interesting to just have a copy of all those packages on my machine so I could actually do my demos properly. Another reason may be NuGet is managed by the package authors. So if you depend on jQuery for your projects, NuGet.org will always contain a version of jQuery that was posted by the jQuery team. Now, if for some reason the jQuery team deletes the jQuery package and you build your project, jQuery is gone, your project will not build. So NuGet.org is managed by the package authors, not by you, which means if the package author does something crazy with it, your project will go crazy as well. A recent example of this, who of you is using Log4net? Okay, a few. If you use that in your project a couple of weeks ago, you would probably install Log4net, maybe update Log4net, and you would see your build breaks. The reason for that was Log4net fails in the versioning. They had a breaking change, but they only upgraded the minor version, which meant everyone depending on that package who got the latest version of Log4net, those builds were broken. So that may be another reason why you want to host your own NuGet repository, just to make sure that whenever you make a build, it is made from the same set of packages. Now, where can you host NuGet? Well, on a file system. Just like I did as a quick backup for my demos, I just had my release folder here. I added some packages in there, registered this one in Visual Studio, and Visual Studio was able to fetch the packages in there, optionally even filter packages in there. So Visual Studio can just use this one as a package server, which is just a folder. This also means you can use a network share. If you have an entire team and you want to share all packages for your team, what you can do is just host a network share somewhere, copy all the packages in, and register that one in Visual Studio. And Visual Studio will go over the network, install all those packages in your solution. Now, unfortunately, folders are local, and network shares are typically bound to your corporate network. If you don't have a VPN connection to branch offices, if you work with distributed teams, it gets a little messy to set up a network share for all those teams. So what you can do there is use NuGet.server and host your own NuGet server over HTTP, which is much easier. Now, unfortunately, I had a demo on that. I can't do it unless someone can provide me with internet access. I'm connected to Congress. It should work. I'm going to quickly try because it's an interesting demo just to... Yeah, there we go. Internet is back. So, you can host your own NuGet server through HTTP. And it's as easy as just installing a NuGet package, and your solution will immediately be a NuGet server. If you need something fancier, something like NuGet.org uses, for example, if you want to create your own NuGet.org, if you want to allow people to just upload their own packages, it works, it doesn't work, what is going on? It's crazy. Or is it just NuGet.org that is down? NuGet.org is down, that's the reason. Okay. So I can demo the NuGet.server package. Now if you want to create your own NuGet server, something like NuGet.org where people can register, upload their packages, share their packages with your entire team, you can also go to GitHub and install an exact copy of NuGet.org on your own server. Because NuGet.server is a bit limited, you can also install a full-blown gallery on your own server. If you don't want to host it yourself, you can also use something like NuGet, which is a NuGet as a service website where you can also create your own feeds, but without having to maintain everything, without having to maintain users, without having to maintain storage, HTTP connections, and stuff like that. So, NuGet.server. It's a pity. I'm going to try one more time. If I can find NuGet.org. Nope. Other ways? No, I don't think so. I'm going to explain this one. If you want to install NuGet server, just find a NuGet package called NuGet.server. If you install that one, what it will do is add some web config entries. It will add an MVC controller, and it will add a folder named packages in your project. If you run that application, just after installing the package, you will have your NuGet server ready. Now the problem with NuGet server is it's a bit limited. It only contains one feed. So if you want to create a feed per team or per project or per whatever, you have to install multiple versions of NuGet.server if you want to have more feeds, more than one feed. Also, NuGet.server has no UI, which means if you want to upload a package to NuGet server, you'll have to build your own UI to do that. So it's a good starting point if you want to build your own NuGet server, but it's not an ideal solution to quickly go and have a NuGet server available. Also, there's almost no security to this one. Typically, I haven't shown you, but what you can do if you want to publish a NuGet package, what you would do is say NuGet push an API key, and it will go and upload that package to your NuGet server. Now the thing is, with NuGet server, there's only one API key, which means all users must share the same API key. So you're not able to see which user uploaded which package belongs to which user, stuff like that. So NuGet.server is ideal if you want to build your own NuGet server and extend it, but it's not an all-in-one solution that you can just use and go. Another option is just host your feed somewhere else, and that's myget.org. It's just a website where you can go, create your feeds, upload packages, push packages, everything NuGet does, but you don't have to maintain it. You don't have to write any code to use this one. Just click a button and go. It also has some interesting other features. For example, it does package mirroring. If NuGet.org is down or for some reason doesn't work, what you can do is copy packages from NuGet to a myget feed. It also supports package proxy, which is an interesting one. You saw in my Visual Studio that if I go to my package sources, that I have a number of package sources. Now, if you have a team of 100 people, and you have to instruct those 100 people to install all these package sources in their Visual Studio, they will go nuts. Because it's a lot of work, things can go wrong, stuff like that. Now what you can do with myget is just register one feed and let myget do the linking to all the other feeds. myget can include packages from other feeds as well. So you just have one feed in your Visual Studio. So since that one will probably not be done, I'm going to quickly demo it. This is myget, where I can just click sign in or get started. So I can log in with any identity provider. And I can create a feed. So the feed I will create will be TechDays Finland. It can be public, which means everyone can access it, just read only. It can be a community feed where everyone can pull and push packages. It can also be a private feed, which means if you want to consume a package from that one, you have to log in using credentials. I'm going to create a public feed, continue. And what I can do is add packages in there. If NuGet works, I'm going to try it. NuGet.server. Takes a while, so I think NuGet really is down, which is a pity for the demos. Now, what I can also do is upload my own packages. So I had my, that's the wrong button. I have my class library in here. So what I can do is just upload that file, my class library package, click on add, and it will go and upload and add this package to my feed. Easy as that. So my package is in there. If I go to my feed details, you will see that I have a feed URL, which I can use. And if I now go to Visual Studio, add my feed in there, I can just consume this feed as well. So it's really easy to set up your feed over there, and it's another alternative to hosting everything yourself. Okay, an interesting one is continuous package integration. NuGet is tempting because it's easy to install packages in your solution, but it's even more tempting to not upload all your dependencies to your version control system. So a typical source control contains a folder called references or dependencies or assemblies or something like this. I have a couple of examples there. Typically what you do is add DLLs you depend on, out-of-fact, jQuery, stuff like that. You add it to your source control system just to make sure that if someone opens your solution fresh from the source control system, they have all dependencies in there. Right? Now the problem with that is, are those dependencies your business? Is it really valuable to have multiple versions of an Hibernate sitting on your TFS server? Is it really valuable to have multiple versions of Autofac or Castle.core or something on your GitHub accounts? I don't think so. It's just a waste of disk space. Because the project is owned by someone else develops in Hibernate, someone else hosts all these in Hibernate assemblies. I don't think you should have those in your source control system. Source control system is for your intellectual property, for your projects, for your software and your products. So I don't think all those dependencies should be in your source control system. Now what you can do is just remove them all from your source control system. Remove and hibernate from every project you have sitting in your TFS server. What you can do is instruct your build server or instruct Visual Studio to, whenever someone compiles, just fetch all the required NuGet packages at that moment. Not from your source control, but from NuGet. Which is an interesting one, because typically if you have a project of 100 megabytes, probably 30 or 40 megabytes will be your project and the rest will be external dependencies. So don't include those in source control, just install them whenever they are needed. Which makes you think, should I copy all those NuGet packages to my build server as well? No. You can just instruct MS builds to just download all those NuGet packages whenever a build has to be created. So I'm going to quickly show you how you can do that. I had my second class library in here, so it's a different project from the one I had before. And what I'm going to do is install package class library 1, so the one we created before. Going to run this one, and you will see, by the way, that since I had a dependency on MEF contrib, it also installed that one in one go. Now what you will see is my project actually got extended by one file, packages.config. And if I open that one, you will see that it contains all the package references that I created. So you see NuGet somewhere keeps track of what packages you have installed in your solution. And I can actually specify which versions I want in my solution. By the way, those are the defaults. If you don't want people to upgrade class library 1, you can just add something like that. Or if you just want to stay within the same minor version, you can add this one and stuff like that. So you can modify this and basically instruct Visual Studio and NuGet to not install other packages or other versions on the package. Now the thing is, you have this file, so if you check this one into your source control system, that's basically all you need to know. Because then when you download all those sources from your source control system, Visual Studio should be able to somehow install all these packages, right? Now, first some background. If you go into your Windows Explorer, you will see on the solution level that there's also a folder being added, packages. Step 1 in enabling NuGet package restore, in making sure Visual Studio installs all those packages and those packages are not in your source control. Step 1 in there is don't include the packages folder in your source control. Add an exclude rule on TFS, add it to your ignore files in other source control system. Just make sure the packages folder is not in your source control. Next thing you will do is go to your solution, right-click it, and enable NuGet package restore. So it's just a menu item sitting in there, enable NuGet package restore. I'm going to click it, click yes. And what you will see is that it fails because I need NuGet for this. Damn it. What it would typically do is download NuGet, make sure NuGet is on my system, so the NuGet.exe file, and it will add a new folder. Where is it? It will add a new folder in here, which is called .NuGet, and of course you should add that one in your source control. That one will contain all the magic required to automatically download and fetch all the information that you should include in your project. So if this demo would have worked, what I would do is just remove my packages folder, do Control F5, and you would see that Visual Studio would just re-download all those packages and make sure those packages are available and those dependencies are available. I don't have them in my source control. My source control is much smaller, and I have less dependencies and references folders to maintain in my source control system. The reason for that is, that's a good question. So the question was, why do you need NuGet to enable this feature? The reason for that is NuGet.exe. What this feature will do is it needs NuGet.exe to be able to restore all those packages. So it will go to NuGet.org to download NuGet.exe and include it in your project. And that's why it needs NuGet in the first place. It's really a pity that it's done because it's actually a very cool feature. Your solution can be 1 or 2 megabytes and you can download 50 megabytes of dependencies on the go or on your build server. But you see, that's another reason to host your own package source and to make sure you have a copy of your dependencies sitting on some NuGet server somewhere. Yeah. Now the thing is, you see this NuGet package cache? NuGet also caches all packages on your local drive. Now the problem is, right before this session, I cleared my cache. So if I hadn't done that, my demos would have worked and no one would have noticed that NuGet was down, but that's the reason. Okay, so package restore. Wasn't able to show it, but I hope you get the concept that you should not include all those dependencies in your source control and just install them on the fly. Enable NuGet package restore and make sure NuGet downloads all those things in one go when you build your project. One thing you should commit to your source control is, of course, that .NuGet folder containing NuGet.exe. And also, under the packages folder, you will also see a repositories.config file, which is basically just a reference to where NuGet found which package. So if you have multiple feeds, NuGet will say, well, I found this package there, I found this package there, I found this package over that feed. So probably interesting to just include that one in your source control. Now, of course, I've shown you NuGet is down and I'm not able to use this thing. Which means if you have a build server using this NuGet package restore, your builds will fail if NuGet is down. So again, create your copy of some NuGet packages. But how do you instruct your build server to make use of that? Log on to the build server and configure it there? No. If you enable this package restore feature, in this .NuGet folder, there's a NuGet.settings file. Just open that. There's a nice setting called gallery URL or something. Just update that one with your own gallery server, with your own NuGet server, with MyGet, with whatever file system share you're using, for example. And all your build servers will go look there for the NuGet packages. Okay, now organizing your chickens. I told you NuGet.server is a bit limited because it has only one feed. A question may be, why do I need more than one feed? It's all up to you. What you can do is have just one feed containing all the packages you want. No problem. But what I typically do is create a feed per project, or create a feed per branch, or create a feed per team, or something like that. Just to make sure that if you have one specific project, and you want to build that project, it always goes to the same feed containing a known set of packages. Not just the latest version of jQuery or the latest version of X, Just making sure that all the dependencies I have are exactly the same as when I first added the package to my Visual Studio. You can use one feed, you can use multiple feeds, it's up to you, but it may be interesting to just structure it a little bit. If you push packages to a feed, whether that's the official NuGet feed that everyone can consume, or your own feeds within your company, you have a great responsibility by publishing packages. You are the one that can break people's builds. If I would have been the author of Log4Net and I upload a breaking change without specifying the right version, I think across the globe a lot of build servers will go red in that case. So you have to take care of your version. You are responsible for what's happening on NuGet or what's happening on your NuGet feeds. If you don't respect the versioning, people may choose not to consume your package. If you're an open source project and you have some failures like that, people may choose not to use your package anymore. Also very important is, if you are a package author, you upload a package on some feed. NuGet.org, for example, doesn't allow you to delete a package, which is a good thing. I had a discussion with someone before on this one. Who told, well, I upload the package, I own a package, I should be able to delete it, right? No. Because again, you are responsible, you are the one breaking other people's builds by removing the package from NuGet. So it's not allowed. By the way, if you accidentally commit something to a NuGet server, you can always email the administrator and they will remove it anyway. But typically, you should not be able to remove packages. Also, you should not be able to update a package containing the same version number. So if I upload version 1.2.3, I should not be able to update package 1.2.3. It should be package 1.2.4. Why? People may have already been using version 1.2.3, and I don't want to break people's build again. If I have some change in there, albeit a typo or something, just upgrade the version number. Make sure you don't break people's builds or don't change people's builds. Which is another interesting concept. NuGet has this feature of auto-upgrading NuGet packages. Who thinks that's great? You install a package and it automatically upgrades. Who thinks it's great? Okay, some people. It is great, but it's not so great on your build server. The reason for that is if you have a build server, you always expect that the same input produces the same output. If you have a specific set of packages, a specific source code, if you compile it and you compile it again, the result should be exactly the same every time you do that. Now, if for some reason NuGet automatically updates all your packages, your input changes and your output will change. So it's becoming more difficult to track everything going on your build server. So on your build server, by the way, by default, this feature is not enabled, but keep it disabled on your build server. Don't automatically upgrade. Let this be something that one developer in your team or a project lead or a technical lead or something does on their solution. Don't do it automatically. Now the interesting part. Let's see what else you can do with NuGet. Change our perspective. So far we've seen NuGet is just a package manager. It allows you to install packages from NuGet, include those in your source code in your Visual Studio solutions. Change perspective and look at NuGet as a protocol, because NuGet has feeds containing packages. Packages are just zip files containing files. And for some reason Visual Studio installed those files and includes dependencies on the DLLs in there. But that should not be the case in any case. So what you can do is use NuGet as a protocol. Use a NuGet gallery to host packages containing different sets of files. Use NuGet to download packages and copy them on your file system without installing something in Visual Studio. There's interesting stuff you can do with this. One interesting example is Octopus. It's a pretty new project on the internet, on octopusdeploy.com. And the idea they have is, today you have your build server. And your build server is the one machine taking care of your builds. It creates an artifact, but then you have the built artifacts and you have to deploy them somewhere. What you typically do is create a set of batch files. or create a set of PowerShell scripts, or use web deploy, or use whatever reason or whatever means to just copy those artifacts from your build server to a production machine and make sure the application is deployed, right? It's difficult, writing all those scripts, maintaining all those scripts, making sure your build works, making sure you have a development, a test and acceptance in a production environment. It's difficult to do that. Well, Octopus tries to change that. Their solution is you have one server, your Octopus server, which is something like a build server, but a build server for accepting NuGet packages. So what Octopus will do is your build server produces a NuGet package. Octopus downloads that NuGet package to Octopus, and it deploys those to its tentacles. And a tentacle can be your production machine, it can be your development machine, it can be whatever machine you want, and Octopus will just install that NuGet package on all your systems. Which means if you create a NuGet package containing your entire application, Octopus will be able to deploy that package to your production machine, for example. So I have a quick demo on that. This is Octopus, in which I defined some environments. And you see I have my debug environment. And my debug environment contains one server, which is my local host on my machine. And Octopus will be able to deploy any package to my debug machine, my local system. I have projects, for example, NuGet, which is an application I want to be able to deploy to my local machine, for example. What Octopus can do is go to my build server, request a NuGet package there, and just copy that NuGet package on my server and make sure IIS install this package. And then I can create a new release. I'm going to quickly demo this. I have my IIS in here, and you see it's pretty empty. Make sure this one runs. So there's no application sitting on my local machine right now. Now what I can do with Octopus is create a new version, let's say 1.1.0.640 or something like that. I can select which package version I want to install. You know, NuGet has those package versions. Well, same here. If my build server produces a package, increase the version number, major, minor, patch version or something like that. You can select the package to deploy, add some release notes, demo at TechDays Finland, and add to queue. Nothing happened, I just told Octopus to create a release containing a specific package, containing some release notes and stuff like that. Now, what next thing I can do is deploy this release to an environment, to my test environment, to my production environment, to my local machine, or wherever. So I'm going to do that, deploy to my debug environment, and deploy. And what Octopus will do is fetch this package from my NuGet feed or from my build server, and deploy it on my local machine. Now it's queued. It's executing, and you can see what it does. It actually downloads a package from a NuGet feed. It deploys it to my machine on localhost, sends all the data over the wire, installs the package, and after a while you should be able to see the application running on my local machine. And for some reason my browser crashed. Is it finished? Almost. Anyway, you get the idea. The idea is Octopus just downloads a NuGet package, installs it on my local machine, or on your production machine, or wherever. And that's, by the way, how we built NuGet. NuGet is something me and a colleague built, and we actually have our build server producing a NuGet package containing NuGet as an application, uploading that package to the current version of NuGet. We download it from there using Octopus, and we deploy it on my machine and on my colleague's machine. So you can create some pretty interesting scenarios there. Another interesting way of abusing NuGet is chocolaty. Who of you has been using Linux or Debian or something like that? Okay, you have those package managers on there. You have yum, you have apt-get, all those things where you can just from the command line say, install this software, install this software, install this software. Well, chocolaty is the same thing, but for Windows. So what chocolaty does is, I'm going to quickly show it to you. Clear my screen. Chocolaty adds some commands to your command line. See list, for example, and I can say I want to install Mercurial. What I can do is ask chocolaty to display me all the packages containing the name HG for Mercurial. Unable to connect to the remote server. The reason is chocolaty uses NuGet.org. But the general idea of chocolaty is that you can just, like you install a NuGet package in your Visual Studio solution, chocolaty will install an application on your Windows machine. Now if you search for my name plus chocolaty, you will find an interesting PowerShell script that is able to restore your fresh machine and installs a lot of developer tools just using chocolaty. I use it all the time. I installed the Windows 8 consumer preview, and what I did is I just downloaded that script again and I installed my entire development environment using chocolaty without doing anything. Just one batch file installing all these packages. So another way of using NuGet. I have another sample on my blog if you're using Windows Azure, for example. I have written a set of code that consumes a NuGet feed and installs all those packages on a Windows Azure machine. So what you can do is just upload your package to a NuGet feed, and it will deploy that automatically to your entire server farm sitting on Windows Azure. So this was a scenario I talked to you about. Just for NuGet, we have our build server. We run our tests. We publish our software to a NuGet feed. Then we use Octopus to deploy this software from that NuGet feed to our environment. And then we release it. Just having the entire chain, but just using NuGet as the intermediate protocol between every server and every step in the process. So with that, dependencies and people are like chicken. You will get into dependency hell if you just are a chicken and you change your version numbers without thinking about it. So make sure you respect versioning. Make sure you respect dependencies in their versioning. And NuGet can help you with that to automate stuff just for doing that. Also, set up your own NuGet repository. Don't be like my demos, where NuGet.org is down. Set up your own repository, copy packages, add your own packages, and use that instead of the official version out there. Reasons, package authors are the ones maintaining the packages, which means if someone deletes it, if someone doesn't respect versioning, your builds will fail and you will spend a few hours, again, dealing with dependency hell. Continuous package integration is great. Enable NuGet package restore. Don't add all those packages to your source control system. Just download them on the fly whenever a build is created. Whenever a new developer installs Visual Studio and downloads your project from source control, install the packages just at that time. Don't include them in source control. Important to remember, don't just update new versions of packages on your build server. Because your input is different, your output will also be different. It becomes more difficult to track everything you're doing. Also, remember the fact that NuGet is not only a package manager, you can also use it as a protocol. We've seen Octopus to automate deployments using NuGet. We've seen chocolaty, well, not actually, but you get the idea. You can use chocolaty just to install software. Not dependencies, not .NET stuff, just to install software on your Windows machine. I have that blog post where you can just upload a NuGet package and push it to different Azure machines. Use NuGet as a protocol as well. It's just OData. It's a zip file containing several conventions, and use that in your project. One additional example there, in the beginning of my demo I showed you the NuGet Package Explorer, where you could just create your NuGet package in this NuGet Package Explorer application. They have a plugin system. Where do they get their plugins? From a NuGet feed. So you can also do that scenario. With that, I thank you for being here. If you have questions, feel free to come over and ask. If you are really interested in NuGet and you want to sponsor me and my colleague, buy our book or install the package Pro NuGet, in which you will find a link to our book. And thank you for being here.